Hello, everyone. Tonight we are following a creature you wouldn't want to meet on a moonless walk, and yet here you are trailing it through the bones of a forgotten valley. You're surrounded by wind-chiseled stones, silence, and the occasional uneasy echo of something much larger than you shifting in the distant dark. The air smells like dust and old fur, and the lion, massive, muscular, ancient, moves ahead of you quietly desperate. Its paws kick up no sound on the cracked earth. It's thirsty. It has been for days. But no matter how close it gets to water, it never drinks. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far this little tribe of nightwalkers reaches. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along after the cave lion, marveling at how a creature this large can vanish between shadows with such ease. It's not just hiding, it's avoiding something. Its tongue flicks out over cracked lips, nostrils flaring as it catches the scent of moisture somewhere ahead. The wind shifts. Somewhere out there, water waits. You can feel it. The lion can smell it, but still it swerves, making a wide arc through thornbrush and stony ledges instead of going straight. Its ribs show like buried bones under a shroud of golden brown fur. You'd think it would charge a puddle like a blessing, like salvation. But this one doesn't. And it's not alone, none of them do. Historians still debate whether this was instinct, experience, or some passed-down myth. But one thing's certain, cave lions had a thing about water. And not a cute cats hate baths kind of thing. This was deeper, colder. It shaped their lives. Up ahead, the lion pauses. Ears flick. You freeze behind a low rise. There's a soft sound in the distance. Could be trickling, could be wind whispering through bone reeds. The lion doesn't move toward it. Instead, it slinks down low to the ground and waits. You can almost hear its heartbeat, or maybe that's your own. It isn't just watching, it's listening. You do the same. There's something in the air, a strange rhythm to the silence. And the moment stretches like the lion is trying to decide whether to risk everything for a single mouthful. Instead, it stands slow and deliberate and moves in the opposite direction. It's not just avoiding that one place. It's avoiding the idea of water entirely. Now, here's a weird thing: some ancient desert reptiles, like the thorny devil lizard, can drink through their skin. Tiny grooves between their scales draw water up toward their mouths, letting them sip dew without even moving. But cave lions, they needed to drink. They just didn't. At least not near the obvious places. The lion you follow lopes toward a patch of moss-slicked stone claws, digging in for grip. Here, it lowers its muzzle and licks desperately, reverently at the barely moist surface. It's not enough. It knows that. You know that. But still, it refuses to descend the slope toward the clear pool glimmering faintly in the shadow of the next ridge. You'd think this was just one lion's quirk. Maybe a bad memory, a near drowning. But over time, bones tell the truth. And bones of cave lions. Panthera spelaea. The biggest cats in Europe during the Ice Age rarely appear near ancient lakes or rivers. They're mostly found in dry uplands far from the safest watering holes. Odd, right? There's this old academic theory that cave lions may have depended on eating prey that had already hydrated, getting moisture secondhand from flesh. But even that doesn't explain their eerie reluctance. You've seen other predators stake out watering holes for hours, sometimes days. Not these lions. Not once. As the night thickens, you follow your lion farther into high, dry country. You pass what looks like a dead streamstone banks with no shimmer between them. But your guide still glances at it warily. There's nothing there, not even a glint. And yet it avoids the path that would cross it, leaping from boulder to boulder like stepping over a ghost. Far off, a howl rises. Not wolf. Not anything you recognize. The lion growls low, not in response but in warning. It senses something. You strain your ears. The wind dies for a moment. You swear you hear the crackle of water flowing where none exists. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're dehydrated too. But there's something in the air now, a thickness like humidity but cold. Not tropical, not alive. The lion stops. You do too instinctively. It's staring at something you can't see, eyes locked, tail twitching. For a heartbeat, you think it might finally charge the water. Instead, it backs up slow and steady, never turning away, like it's afraid to blink. That's when you spot it. A slick glint just under a pile of stone. A puddle. No deeper. Darker. Too dark. A pool that doesn't reflect the moonlight, just absorbs it. Like ink. Like an eye. You take a step forward. The lion snarls not at you, but toward the water. Then it turns and runs. Not a stalk, not a retreat. A full-blown run, the kind you don't see unless something has truly rattled a predator that size. And you're left standing parched, curious, and not entirely sure you're alone. The pool looks harmless enough at first, just a dip in the earth framed by smooth stones catching the last violet smear of dusk light. But you've seen puddles that feel deeper than oceans, and this one stares back, not like a mirror, not like glass, more like a doorway no one bothered to close properly. You hesitate because the cave lion bolted, and when an apex predator bolts, you listen. Still, curiosity is a louder hunter than fear, and your feet crunch forward against better judgment. As you crouch, the surface of the water barely ripples. Your reflection blinks back at you. But then it doesn't. No ripple, no breeze, just you. Until it isn't. Your shape in the water flattens slightly, like something else is wearing your outline. For a flicker, the pupils look slitted. Not yours, definitely not yours. Cave lions were no strangers to reflection. In fact, their sharp vision helped them hunt under moonlight. Yet more than one account carved into bone tablets shows lions startled, sometimes aggressively so, when they spotted their own faces in water. Some attacked the surface. Others growled low and refused to approach again. There's even one piece of rock art in Lascaux showing a lion slashing at what appears to be its mirrored image. Not prey, not another lion, just itself. Historians still debate whether this behavior hints at self-awareness or something else, something instinctive buried in evolution's darker corners. Maybe water didn't just reflect their image. Maybe it reflected something older. You hear a sound like someone exhaling through teeth, but no one's here. The pond doesn't move. Your face, now fully visible, begins to warp, not from motion but from memory. You look younger, then older, then you but furred. You blink and stand quickly. The vision disappears. Whatever it was, it didn't belong to the present. You back away. Across the ridge in the brush, eyes watch you again, golden and low to the ground. The cave lion hasn't run far, it's waiting. Not for you. For the moment to pass. You rejoin it. Its flank rises and falls fast. You both ignore each other, some unspoken truce forming between the two of you, bonded by what you didn't just see. Here's a strange fact to keep in your back pocket. Some ancient human tribes believed reflective surfaces, especially still water, were portals where spirits of the dead lingered. They avoided drinking from pools unless the surface had been broken by stick or stone. Drink only where the world has already shattered, they'd say. You suspect the lion shared that superstition, except with more urgency and far less ritual. You trail the lion toward a new location. The sky fades from dusty blue to that deep eggplant hue that means real night has arrived. Crickets none. Frogs none. Even the insects seem to know better than to hum too close to the water tonight. The lion stops again. There's another pool ahead, this one larger with lily pads and faint mist coiling from its edges like spilled breath. Your companion lowers itself into a crouch watching. You do the same. And then you see it. Its reflection moves first. The lion hasn't blinked, hasn't twitched. But the shape in the water ripples before the actual lion moves. like the water's trying to predict it or remember it. You nudge closer, holding your breath, half expecting the lion to leap forward. Instead, it shudders, not from cold, from memory. There's a sound, soft, small, sweet even. It's the purring trill of a lion cub, but it's coming from the water. You lean forward. The cave lion snarls low and deep and backs up, head lowered, ears flat. You freeze. The cub sound continues. And here comes the kicker, it's not a cub. Not unless cubs can mimic echo patterns perfectly on loop. The sound is almost too neat, rehearsed. You glance at the pool again, and you see it. The reflection is still there, but now there's a second lion. Smaller, thin. Its fur doesn't ripple in the breeze because the breeze isn't blowing there. It's not real, but it's there. And then it opens its mouth, but no sound comes from the reflection. Instead, the noise echoes from the trees behind you. The cave lion bolts again, vanishing into the bush with a speed that tells you everything you need to know. It's done with this. It won't look back. You should run too. But you linger. Because humans are ridiculous. The image in the water fades. The echo stops. The trees creak and the lily pads tremble just once, as though something beneath the waterline has just exhaled. There's an old theory that cave lions avoided water not because of scent or prey patterns, but because of what lived in certain ponds. Not crocodiles, Europe didn't have many of those. And not other predators. Something older. Some biologists have pointed out that stagnant water near limestone formations can trap gas and echoes, creating auditory illusions. But even that doesn't explain carvings found deep in caves, depictions of lions facing down mirrored versions of themselves. Jaws locked in a perfect match, as if the lions were at war not with others, but with their own reflections. One drawing in particular shows a lion with two shadows, one walking with it, the other facing it head-on in a pool. You look down one last time. This time you see nothing. The water has stilled again, too still, like it's pretending. You finally follow the lion. You don't run, but you don't walk slow either. As you climb the ridge, you feel a vibration in your chest. Not sound, not really. Just that awful sensation that someone is behind you, breathing close enough to move your hair. But when you turn, there's no one. Just the pool, distant now, hiding under its curtain of lilies. Maybe that's why cave lions avoided water. Not because of what they saw, but because water remembered. And sometimes it wanted things to come back. You've put a few ridges between yourself and the pool now. Your heart has slowed, but your mouth is dry, so dry, it's like your tongue is wrapped in old wool. The cave lion somewhere ahead of you is weaving between granite outcrops. It's not limping, not injured, but it moves like it's being watched. The thirst is still there, tightening its flanks, making its breath sharp. But it won't go back, neither will you. Down in a sunken patch of earth, you see something strange. The ground turns silvery, the light playing tricks again. You descend carefully, the air cooler here, the shadows deeper. You nearly trip on the first piece, a curved rib too big to be human, too smooth to be recent. Nearby, more bones scattered like dice across the ground, old and bleached. They're lion bones. At least 3 individuals, maybe more. Skulls cracked not by violence but by pressure. Jawbones turned oddly inward. And claw marks, faint, frenzied, etched into the stone, pointing away from the water, not toward it. Now, here's a confirmed historical fact. Cave lion remains, when found near dried-up streambeds or ancient lakes, are almost always isolated cases. One here, one there. And almost none in family groups or pride clusters. Which is weird, because these animals were highly social. You'd expect to find packs that died together. But instead, you get lone skeletons like these. Like lions who tried to drink and didn't come back. Historians still debate whether this suggests rogue individuals breaking pride rules or something much simpler, that once a lion entered certain water zones, the others refused to follow. You crouch beside one skull. It's tilted toward a flat depression where water used to sit. There's no moss, no insects, just dust. And silence. You whisper, What scared you so bad you scratched the rocks? You get no answer, but the lion bones almost seem to lean as if telling you, we warned them. They didn't listen. A breeze blows through the hollow, but it doesn't cool you. It dries you more like it's made of salt. You try to swallow. Nothing. You look toward where the pool used to be, now just a dull smear in the earth. You could dig, but your instincts scream not to. And anyway, there's something else, the smell. You know that metallic edge water gets when it's been sitting too long. Multiply that by dread. That's what you smell. Not rot, not death, just old stagnant memory like something trying not to be disturbed. One of the lion femurs is scored with what looks like bite marks, but too wide for a hyena and too deep for a bear. You've seen mammoth tusk scars before. These aren't those. These are weirder. As if whatever bit down didn't chew, just pressed. Crushed. Somewhere behind you, a low thrumming starts. Not sound, not vibration, just atmosphere. Like the pressure dropped, but only for you. You climb back out of the hollow because even ancient death isn't as heavy as present silence. The cave lion appears again above, watching from a ledge. You meet its eyes for the first time. They are bright, intelligent, and resigned. Like it knows this story is older than either of you and it just wants to get through the night without repeating it. Fair, you murmur. Me too. You both walk along the edge of a dry riverbed now, the memory of water carving the stone like a wound. Strange how absence can leave such strong shapes. You try to imagine the lions who died here. Was it sudden? A slip into a too-deep pool? Or something worse, something that made them stay when they should have run? In an odd twist, the most complete cave lion skeleton ever found in Russia was a cub. Perfectly preserved in permafrost. They named it Sparta. And you know what's wild? That cub had no evidence of water damage. It was buried dry. Like even in death, it never touched a drop. Makes you wonder if they trained their young to fear it. You follow the lion as it leads you away from the old stream bed up into broken terrain where no ponds could form. Even rain avoids these highlands like it's too polite to drip here. You joke to yourself, guess cave lions were just extreme introverts, water's too social. The lion doesn't laugh. Probably for the best. You walk through a grove of twisted pine roots, gripping rock like they're afraid of falling. The breeze picks up again, but this time it carries something different. Dust mixed with sweetness. Sap no more decay. You find a carcass half buried in pine needles. Deer maybe, or something deer-shaped. The throat's untouched. That's odd. Usually predators go for the soft bits first, but this one's belly is torn open, like something searched its insides and left the rest. The cave lion doesn't approach, just sniffs once, then moves on. You follow. It's not afraid of prey. It's afraid of where prey was killed. You notice a groove in the dirt beside the body. A line shallow, but unmistakable, leading back down toward, another dried-out pool. But this one has something different. Around the edge of the depression, stones have been stacked. Not randomly, deliberately. Small cairns, maybe 6 inches high, evenly spaced. You count 11 before stopping. You don't touch them. The lion sits at a distance. Not grooming, not alert, just waiting. Like it's done this 100 times before. You're not sure what unnerves you more, the fact that someone or something built those stone piles or that the lion knows exactly what they mean. You consider taking a photo. But your phone's battery is somehow 0%. Of course it is. You sit beside the lion. The stars are out now. Cold, quiet, perfect. Neither of you says a word. You wake before dawn, stiff from sleeping on stone and pine needles, your breath fogging faintly in the air. The cave lion is gone, but not far. You hear it moving downhill, slow, deliberate, like it's choosing each step carefully. You follow. The landscape has shifted again, less rock now, more scrub, more shadows cast by thicker vegetation. Down below, mist clings to the hollows like fabric soaked in dreams. You smell the water before you see it. That same metallic edge, but this time there's something sharper like wet fur. And something else, almost like a voice. The trees thin out ahead. You crouch, moving slowly. The lion is still now watching from behind a screen of reed-thick grass. You slide up next to it, keeping your breath shallow. In the shallow basin ahead sits a pond, circular, ringed with moss-covered stones, steam rising lazily from its surface. And then from the far end of the water comes the sound again. A cry. High-pitched, sharp. You freeze. It's a lion cub's call, unmistakably. You'd swear it's coming from just across the water. The cave lion's ears twitch, but it doesn't move forward. It lowers its body, slightly pressing into the grass like it's trying to disappear into the earth. The call comes again, then again. It's not the sound of a cub in play. It's distress. Short, panicked bursts like, come back, I'm alone. You almost rise to go look, but the lion growls softly, barely more than a breath, but it's a clear don't. Here's an odd fact to chew on with your granola. Some migratory birds can imitate the cries of other species to lure them in, usually for competition or territory disputes. But no mammal species has ever been proven to mimic a lion cub's distress call. None. That you know of. So either a cub is out there alone in the reeds, or something learned how to sound like one. Historians still debate whether cave lions were preyed upon in their adult form. They were the top predators of their ecosystem. But this moment right here tells you something those historians don't know. Being on top doesn't mean there's nothing above you. The lion doesn't run. It doesn't advance. It just watches the water with a kind of stillness that feels ancient, inherited, like it's reliving something. You shift your weight. A twig snaps underfoot. The crying stops. The silence that follows is wet and wrong. The pond ripples, but there's no wind. Then something moves under the surface, fast, low, wide. You don't see details, just displacement. Water curling away like skin recoiling from heat. The lion stands now, not fleeing, not growling, just tense. Its tail flicks once. You're both staring at the spot where the sound was, but nothing surfaces. The water returns to stillness far too quickly. You mutter that wasn't a cub. The lion doesn't even blink. It takes a while, but the sound returns again, this time not a cry. A rustling. Something heavy in the reeds. And then the most unnerving part, a splash like something big stepping out of the water. You can't see it. You don't want to. You and the lion start backing away together. No signal, no agreement. Just a shared understanding that this place is finished. You leave it for whatever calls the shadows home. And it's not just you. Animals know. Across history, across species, there are watering holes that even the thirstiest beasts refused. Some ancient African tribes would mark such places with piles of broken pottery, a symbolic act to shatter reflection and keep evil contained. No one drank from those pools. No one fished. They were places of silence and warning. You pass through a thicket and glance back one last time. The mist is thicker now. The pool's surface is invisible beneath it, like it's folded into the sky. The lion leads you up a slope, paws nearly silent on the needle-covered path. Birds chirp in the canopy above finally, and you feel like you've returned to a world where rules make sense again. Then ahead, you see a small rise of earth with a cave mouth like a broken mouth in the hillside. The lion goes inside without hesitation. You follow. It's dry. Cool. The floor is packed dirt and old leaf matter. Scratch marks line the inner wall. Some fresh, some ancient. You notice something scratched deep into the stone near the entrance. It's not a picture, it's a shape. Two lions. One upside down, or mirrored. Hard to say. Maybe both. The cave lion lies down. Its eyes don't close. Just watches you and the cave mouth behind you. You sit too near the wall, and for the first time you wonder, what did cave lions teach each other about the water? Not just avoid it, but why? How does a predator with no written language pass on a myth, maybe through memory, through experience, through the silence of those who didn't return? You stare at the scratched image again. Two lions, one upright, one not. You don't sleep that night. Neither does the lion. The reeds whisper out there. The pond might still be calling, but you're dry, and you're still here. You don't leave the cave until the light is fully up and the mist has burned off the valley floor. The lion's gone by then. No sound, no farewell, not even a tuft of fur left behind. Typical. Like it was never here, or like you imagined the whole thing, but your legs ache from the climb and your throat still parched. So no, you didn't imagine anything. You climb higher, wanting distance, a broader view. The land sprawls out in front of you, folded stone, low trees, and here and there slashes of ancient riverbeds, most of them dry. But your eyes are drawn to one bend in the distance where a ribbon of water still shimmers faintly. You remember the sound from last night. That cry, that echo, that ripple. You also remember the tale you overheard 2 days ago in a hut warmed by smoke and old meat fat. It was one of those stories half-whispered, the kind told not for truth but for warning. An elder woman with hands like roots had leaned in close and said, "They went down to the water one night. The whole pride, cubs and mothers, even the old male. It was summer and the water was low, safe. Everyone thought so. They drank, one by one, and then they were gone. No noise, no blood, just paw prints in the mud, and the sound of something very old sliding away. You'd thought she was talking about crocodiles, until she added, and the water screamed. A weird little line, one of those phrases that's too ridiculous to mean anything and too vivid to ignore. What does it mean when water screams? It's not poetic. She didn't say it like poetry. She said it like fact. Historians still debate whether such oral stories preserve actual encounters with now extinct predators or if they were metaphorical warnings about diseases, toxins, or drowning hazards. But your gut doesn't lean toward bacteria. You can't shake the feeling that the cave lion's fear wasn't metaphorical at all, that it came from something they saw, or heard, or remembered. You descend toward the next valley and see the place the woman spoke of. The same bend, the same shallow shape. It's mostly dry now, just a crescent of wet sand, with a few pools tucked between rocks. Still, it's enough. You creep closer. Paw prints, old ones, faint but there, and not just one set, many, big, small, a pride's worth, and all heading in, none returning. You kneel. The ground's firm, not muddy, not soft. The prints must have been preserved during a strange season, one where wet and dry overlapped just right to fossilize a moment. And then just beyond the waterline, the strangest print of all. You're not sure it's even a print, it's more like a groove. Deep, long as though something huge had been dragged or dragged itself back into the water. There are no toes, no claws, just wait. You whisper, what pulled them in? A breeze stirs the surface of the nearest pool. You hold your breath. Nothing moves. You walk the bank, careful not to get too close, your thirst, now a background ache. You could kneel. You could drink. You could cup your hands. Taste coolness. Finally, you don't. Because this place isn't still. It's waiting. And now here's something truly off topic. There's a species of sea cucumber that can expel its own intestines to confuse predators. It literally hurls its guts out like a biological smoke bomb. And when it's safe, it just regrows them. You know what that proves? Nature's not subtle. When something feels wrong, it acts wrong. Water doesn't usually wait like this. It either flows or stinks or sparkles. This water, it watches. You find a patch of stone to sit on and pull out your journal. You draw the print, the groove, the surrounding area. The lion tracks? You record the elder's words again, the phrase about the scream. It echoes in your head. Then you write something you hadn't planned to. The water screamed not out but in, as if it was pulling sound in the way a vacuum pulls air. The absence of sound so sharp it creates its own echo. You flip through pages and find your earlier notes accounts of sudden pride disappearances in highland regions. Bones found half consumed but far from water and cave murals that depict lions poised at riverbanks. their backs arched in fear. One such drawing had shown jagged lines above the water, not waves, not fish, just lines, like sound, like vibration. That's when it clicks. Maybe the scream wasn't heard with ears. Maybe it was felt. You rise slowly, backing away from the pool. Not because of fear, but because you're starting to feel something too. A buzzing, low in your ribs. Not sound, not hunger. Like the body remembering something the mind doesn't. And then, silence again, complete. No wind, no birds. The trees still. The water flat. And you know you are not the first to feel this. You turn to leave. But something stops you. You look down and see a single print where your foot had just been. But it's not yours. It's a lion's. Fresh, pressed deep into the soil, and pointing away, you follow it back to the higher ground. Not running, not panicking, just leaving. The way the lions did. You spend the next few hours walking uphill, sticking to dry ridgelines and rocky shelves. The sun is cruel today, pressing down like it's trying to iron the thoughts out of your skull. You squint into the distance, searching for signs of your cave lion companion, but the land is empty, just rocks, wind, and your own 2 feet. Then as you crest another rise, you see it, a watering hole. This one's wider than the last, almost a full circle ringed with thick lily pads and shadowed on one side by a stunted grove of ancient birch. Steam doesn't rise from it. Birds call in the trees. A deer stands on the far bank, legs trembling as it drinks. For a moment it looks normal, but the moment doesn't last. The deer lifts its head suddenly, ears flicking, nostrils flaring. It stares not at you but at the water, and then it backs away, slow, careful. Its hooves splash lightly, barely rippling the surface. It backs all the way out of the pool eyes, never leaving it. You watch it go, then you creep closer. That's when you see the watchers. Not on land, beneath the lilies. Eyes, perfectly round, slightly yellow. Motionless, floating just under the surface like coins in a dark well. 3, maybe 4 pairs. You blink. They blink back. Then they vanish. Gone, instantly. Not diving, not rippling, just gone. You stay very still. The surface returns to stillness. A bird chirps. The breeze resumes ruffling the reeds. And now you start to feel the sensation again, that quiet tension in the chest, the shallow breath, the pulse behind the eyes. It's like your body knows this place, not from memory, from warning. Historians still debate whether cave lions ever hunted in water. Some fossil records show claw marks on river stones, but no remains were ever found in marshes. They were cats of the dry, the elevated, the cold. Even when food was scarce, they stayed away from wet ground. You move laterally now, not forward, circumnavigating the pool just far enough to avoid its pull. It's not thirst pulling at you, it's attention. The water wants you to look, not just at it, but into it. That's when you notice something odd. One of the lily pads isn't a lily pad. It's a piece of fur, floating, matted, pale, old, still curled in the shape of a pelt. You don't touch it. You don't even move closer. You just stare. Because something's wrong with it. The fur is lion-colored. You step back. You whisper, nope, just loud enough for your own benefit. Then you do what every other animal has done in this place. You walk away slowly, not turning your back until there's a full tree between you and the water. Your hands shake slightly. You try to convince yourself you were imagining the eyes, that it was just the way the light played on underwater stones. Except you know better. Cave lions weren't skittish. They were bold apex hunters that roamed from Siberia to Spain. They faced down woolly rhinos. They tore apart megafauna. But water, certain water, they would not challenge. And neither do you. On the edge of the clearing, you find a hollow tree with a twisted trunk and markings burned into the bark. You run your fingers over them and realize they're not natural. They're claw marks, vertical, deliberate. One set, then another slightly higher, like something large was pulling itself up or trying to warn others. You lean against the trunk, breathing slowly. Then you hear it again. The blink. It's not a splash, not a movement, Just a wet blink like someone closing their eyes underwater and opening them again, but you hear it. Behind you, you turn just in time to see a ring of ripples on the water's surface. Only one thing could have caused that, and nothing had entered the water, which means something left it. You don't run. You walk. Fast. Straight up the slope, heart pounding. You reach a stone outcrop and finally stop. You look down. The deer is gone. The water is still. The lily pads float peacefully, and the fur is no longer there. You don't speak. There's no one to talk to. But your inner monologue's going at full speed. What the hell did I just see? What waits down there? What has been waiting for lions for millennia in waters that should be safe? Maybe it isn't just memory. Maybe it's design. Maybe the eyes below the surface are born to mimic safety. Stillness, reflection, thirst's end. A trap so perfect it doesn't need to move. You sit again back against the stone. You're shaking. You laugh once, just a short bark to try and reset your nerves. Doesn't help. But here's a fun fact to distract you: some frogs can hibernate in frozen mud for years. Not months. Years. And then they wake up like nothing happened. Maybe what's under that water isn't awake yet. Or maybe it never sleeps. Your fingers drum against your leg. You pull out your journal again, flip back to the old sketches, and add something new. Still, water doesn't just reflect. It watches. And beneath that, they didn't fear the sound of water. They feared the silence that followed. You stay there until night. You do not return to the pool. And the watchers, if they're still there, make no more moves. But you feel them long after you've left. You meet the tracker by chance, or maybe it isn't chance. He's sitting cross-legged beneath a leaning cedar, chewing on a dried root and watching the sky like he's waiting for it to apologize. His coat looks like it's been passed down through 5 generations of grizzly bears, and his face isn't much smoother. But his eyes are sharp, unblinking. The kind of man who's seen things he didn't ask to remember. He nods when you ask about cave lions. Doesn't speak right away, just chews. Then he says, "I saw one get taken." Just like that. He doesn't embellish, doesn't build suspense, just says it like someone mentioning what they had for lunch. Took it straight down, no splash. You sit. You mean it drowned. No, he spits the root. I mean it vanished. The story comes out in fragments. Years ago, winter. He was following the tracks of a large male cave lion, alone, wide-gate, likely hungry. It had been shadowing a herd of muskoxen, but staying oddly distant, circling toward low ground instead. I thought it was trying to cut the herd off at a spring. The tracker says eyes on the horizon. Made sense, right? They need water. It waits. Classic. But what he found wasn't classic. The lion had reached the spring, a pool of snowmelt trapped between glacial rocks still steaming in the cold. And it had lowered its head, not to drink, just to look. Then it took one step closer, then another, then the ground under it seemed to sigh. The tracker uses that word. Sigh, not crumble, not crack, just sigh. And the lion went under. No roar, no splash, just a slight bend in the reflection. Then gone. He ran forward, expecting to see bubbles thrashing something. But the water was flat, silent, too flat. He tried to look in, but his legs stopped working 10 feet out. Couldn't move, he mutters. Like my body knew. He never returned to that valley. Never told the other trackers. But one thing he remembers is this: the prince didn't show panic. No slipping, no leap, just step. Step, down. Historians still debate whether such stories are exaggerated. Local legends spun from poor visibility and natural hazards. Some claim these pools contain sinkholes or subterranean rivers that occasionally give way. But the tracker disagrees. It wasn't the ground that gave way, he says. It was the moment. Now, here's a strange one. There's a type of plant, the Hydnora africana, that mimics the smell of rotting meat to attract pollinators. It opens its mouth-like bloom, waits, then traps beetles inside until it's finished with them. That's nature, folks. A thing designed to wait, just like the water. You ask the tracker if the lion might have slipped. He shakes his head. No slip, no panic, just gone. You sit in silence a while. Then he says, "They knew. Those lions. They always knew." He reaches into a pouch and pulls out a small piece of bone. Smooth. Burnished by time. A carving. You recognize the shape before he even turns it, a lion crouched by water. Eyes open, but the reflection in the water isn't a lion. It's something longer, smoother. No eyes, just a mouth wide and still. You ask where he got it. Found it in a cave up north, he says. Carved by someone with claws. You ask human. He looks at you, then laughs. Not cruel, just tired. No, too old for that. He tosses the bone back in the pouch like it's a worry stone, something he's touched 1,000 times without knowing why. You part ways with the usual tracker goodbye, no handshake, no nod. Just both of you walking away from the same place in different directions. As you hike toward the next ridge, his words settle into your bones. They knew. It explains the prints, the silence, the hesitations. Even the bones you found by the dry stream, clawed not in attack but in refusal. Maybe some lions didn't avoid the water because of what they saw. Maybe they avoided it because of what it saw in them. You climb higher. The land stretches wide, painted with the last gold of afternoon. In the distance, you spot a shimmer that might be another pond, but something in you says no. You head away. On your path, you find another mark in the dirt, a lion print, half filled with dust, dried at the edges like it had tried to evaporate, but couldn't. You kneel and press your fingers next to it. The print is old, sure, but beside it, another one. Human. Yours. And it's not from today. You never walked this stretch before. Did you? You stand frozen, staring at the prints in the dust. One lion. One human. Side by side, yet slightly out of sync. Yours, but not recent. The heel pattern matches your boot, but there's no freshness to the edge, no crispness to the indentation. Like it was made weeks ago, or maybe longer. Maybe before you even got here. You glance behind you, expecting to see someone else. No one. Just the wind weaving through scorched grass. You place your boot over the old print and step down. Perfect fit. You don't say anything out loud. You don't want the valley to hear your voice just now. As you move on, the light shifts again. It's not just the angle of the sun, it's the feeling that the sun is being watched too. Like the entire landscape is performing something it doesn't believe in. You come to a series of jagged rocks blackened by age, and at first, you think it's a natural formation. But there are too many straight lines, too much rhythm. These aren't random shards. They're standing stones, low-angled, some half-buried under time. And then you see them carvings. Etched into the smoothest face of the tallest stone is a depiction unlike the others you've seen so far. Lions, several of them. But not hunting, not crouching, not angry. Wading, backward, into a pool. Rain lashes down around them, shown as crude but deliberate slashes from the sky. The lions' heads are bowed. Their tails curve inward, and the water they wade into isn't calm. It's full of spirals and lines, symbols you don't recognize. No prey, no humans, just lions walking in and never out. You run your hand over the carvings. They're old, weathered, and slick from centuries of storms, but still clear. Someone or something took the time to preserve this story. Flood season sacrifices. That's what this is, or so it feels. You hear a distant rumble, not thunder, not your stomach. Lower, like rock shifting under the surface of a mountain. You look up. The sky is clear. The stones vibrate slightly beneath your hand. Historians still debate the purpose of these kinds of carvings. Some call them memorials. Others say they're spiritual warnings. But you can't shake the feeling that this isn't meant to honor the lions. It's meant to mark a bargain. Because in this region, every few decades, the rain comes all at once. Monsoon-like floods that drown valleys and flatten trees. And during those times, the cave lions disappear. Not hide, not migrate. Disappear. Locals used to say the lions walked into the floodwaters willingly. One legend claims it was a pact made long ago when the river still spoke. That to keep the waters from rising forever, something had to go in. And the lions, proud and heavy with memory, chose themselves. You hear movement behind you. Not footsteps, not paws, water. But there's no pool here. Just earth and stone. Yet your ears insist dripping. A steady, delicate sound like water falling upward. You walk around the stones and find nothing. Dry soil, cracked bark, silence. Then you kneel, and you see it. A single puddle, tiny, smaller than your hand. Perfectly round, perfectly still. But the droplets, they're rising. Upward, one by one like bubbles in reverse. You reach out and stop yourself just short of touching it. Your fingertip trembles in the air. The water in the puddle shifts. Not from your breath, from attention. You're being watched. Not just by the water, by the memory of the water. You back away. Now, here's something off-topic, but weirdly fitting. There's a fungus, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, that infects ants and controls their behavior. Makes them climb to the perfect height before killing them and bursting out of their heads. Nature's way of mixing horror with micromanagement. It works by hijacking instincts, impulses, memory. What if water can do the same? What if it doesn't just drown you, it guides you? You leave the puddle alone. As you walk, the clouds gather. Just a little. A slow shift from pale to steel gray. You can smell the change in the air. Rain is coming. Not soon, but soon enough. The path narrows, curling between two walls of fractured limestone. You follow it, boots crunching gravel. Then something stops you cold. On the wall, drawn in red ochre, faded but unmistakable, is a figure. Lion-bodied. Human-eyed. It's standing in water. Its paws are submerged, but the reflection in the pool below it is not a lion. It's a mouth. Just a wide, dark mouth. No eyes. No nose. Just hunger drawn as shape. You stare at it for a long time. When you finally blink, you realize something deeper. It's not just that cave lions feared water. It's that they trusted it once, long ago, and that trust was broken. You camp above the valley that night, high enough to see the rain coming, low enough to feel it in your spine. As dusk settles, you spot movement down below. Not a herd. Not a person. Lions. 3 of them. Approaching the same standing stones you found earlier. But they don't stop. They walk right past, toward the edge of a riverbed that hasn't held water in years. They kneel, one by one, and wait, like they remember something, like they expect something to rise. The rain doesn't come that night. It teases the horizon with distant flashes, silent heat lightning that flickers like prehistoric memories across the sky, but the air stays dry. You lie beneath a crooked tree wrapped in a damp-smelling blanket, your eyes fixed on the sleeping valley below. And the lions are still there. Kneeling. They haven't moved in hours. Not hunting, not sleeping. Just motionless like statues in a story only they understand. Their silhouettes shift only when the wind does. You squint. Are there still 3? No, now there are 2. One is missing. You sit up too fast. Your muscles protest. You scan the grasslands. Nothing moves. You tell yourself it wandered off. Maybe followed a scent, maybe finally accepted its thirst. But the others haven't followed. They haven't so much as flicked their tails. You decide to go down. Halfway there, you find yourself in another one of those places where the ground doesn't feel quite connected to itself. It's quiet, but not peacefully so. More like everything's holding its breath. And then you see it, a shallow cave mouth in the side of a collapsed hill. Not deep, not dangerous looking, but the air coming from it is too moist, too warm. And it smells wrong. Not of rot, not of mold, of wet fur. You crouch and look inside. You almost don't see them at first. But then the shapes resolve. Scratched into the wall again and again are lions. Dozens, all the same pose. Claws out, ears flat, facing off against something. It's not clear what. The opposite figures are all scribbled. Not in a careless way, but in a frantic one. Big, featureless, arcing tails. No eyes, just open mouths, wide enough to split their whole bodies. Lions against what look like water shadows. Some of the drawings show lions running. Others show them mid-leap, but none show them winning. You whisper, "Did you fight it?" And in that moment, a breeze escapes the cave, not strong, just warm, and carries with it the faintest scent of blood, but old, dried into memory. You step back. Here's a detail worth noting. The saber-toothed cat Smilodon went extinct around 10,000 years ago. But there are cave drawings, undated, untitled, that show it facing off against something unrecognizable. A predator, with no legs, no head, just a ribboned shape rising out of the ground. Those sketches were dismissed as metaphor. You're not so sure anymore. Historians still debate whether cave art should be treated as record or myth. You've seen enough now to wonder if that distinction even matters. Outside the cave, the sky has begun to sag under the weight of dawn. You head down to where the lions were. They're gone. But where they knelt, you find indentations in the grass, still warm, still damp. And something else. Drag marks. But they aren't from paws. They're too wide, too smooth. Like something heavy was pulled across the earth without limbs. You follow the marks toward the old riverbed. And there, where the grass turns to mud, you find a puddle. Tiny, barely an inch deep. But in the middle of it, caught in the curl of a lily pad, a fang. Big, curved, and snapped. You reach for it. Stop. Pick up a stick instead and lift the fang out gently. It's warm, slick, not from the water, from something inside it. You hold it up to the light and see something etched into its side. Scratches, in lines, not natural, not random. 3 slashes, then a dot. 3 slashes, then a dot. Over and over. You've seen that before. On a cliff wall 2 days ago, same symbols. You think back. The lions wading backward into water during floods. The ones who vanished after droughts. The ones who volunteered. You sit there with the fang in your hand and try to piece it together. What kind of predator requires an offering? Not food, not territory. Memory. You stand. The riverbed ahead still smells of old water. You walk the bank and find more marks in the stone. Not from paws this time, from claws dragged along granite. Desperate, deep. You kneel. There's a crack in the stone like a fault line, but it isn't geological. It's carved. Intentionally, like someone wanted to create an opening. You lower your face toward it. You expect silence. Instead, you hear breath. Not yours. Not wind. Something exhaling rhythmically far beneath the surface. Like it's been sleeping, and your presence stirred it. You rise trembling. Look behind you. The sun has cleared the ridge and everything looks normal again. Just grass, just sky, just the ghost of a lion you'll never see again. You tuck the fang into your pocket, and you keep walking. The land has flattened now, a broad shelf of ancient limestone and frost-heaved soil. The grass here grows in tufts like half-forgotten ideas sprouting from cracks. You're walking without thinking, just one boot in front of the other, when you hear the softest plip of water. You stop instantly. It didn't come from ahead of you. It came from above. There's a cave entrance in the bluff to your right, almost invisible from a distance, low, dark, nothing inviting about it. The sound of dripping echoes faintly from within, but something about the echo pattern is wrong. Not forward and back, but circular. Like the cave is breathing through its stone lungs. Still, you go in, because curiosity, like water, finds its own level, and yours always leads into dark places. The air shifts as you enter, warmer than outside and dense. Not humid exactly, just close. Like every breath you take has already been breathed by something else. The ceiling is low at first, then rises into a cathedral of layered stone worn smooth by time. And then you see it. A single column of water hanging in the middle of the room, dripping. But not down. Up. Droplets rise from a shallow pool at the cave floor and float skyward into a crack in the ceiling. Perfectly spaced. Like a clock. Like a ritual. You whisper, "That's not physics." And the cave answers with silence. The lion prints are here too, padded into ancient mud now, hardened into rock. They circle the pool. Some large, some smaller, but none walk through it. All keep a deliberate distance. You walk their path, tracing the circumference like you've done it before. On the far wall, more carvings. This time not lions, but shapes beneath lions. Curved lines, ripple lines, things that rise. And in the center of one panel, a lion standing with its mouth open, but not roaring, pouring, liquid flowing out, not in. A sacrifice maybe, or a message. Historians still debate whether cave systems were used as burial chambers or sacred memory vaults. You think maybe they were both? A place to leave what shouldn't return. And here's your off-topic moment of the hour. Certain fish, like the archer fish, can spit water upward at insects with deadly accuracy. They see the surface from below and adjust for distortion. What lives in water learns to see both directions. So what if something deeper, something older, learned to see through water into the world above? You crouch beside the pool. The water doesn't move when you breathe, doesn't shiver when you speak. It's waiting absolutely still until each droplet peels off and ascends like a thought leaving a skull. You lean closer. Your reflection isn't there. Instead, you see something wider, not a face, a ripple. Your features stretched into a soft funnel like you're being invited downward even though the water rises. You pull back, fast. Behind you, the stone cracks softly. You turn. The ceiling is sweating now, tiny beads forming along the fissures, gathering, dripping upward. Gravity is broken here, or at least selectively ignored. A lion couldn't drink here. Neither can you. And that's the point, isn't it? This isn't a watering place. It's a warning place. Or a gate. You back away from this pool and sit near one of the old paw prints. There's a small pile of stones beside it, stacked deliberately. Not human, but not random. You reach out. The stones are warm. As you touch them, a sound rises from the pool. Not water. Breath. A slow inhalation. Then quiet. You freeze. Somewhere behind the walls, the air shifts again. You feel seen. Not by eyes. By presence. You rise and step carefully toward the exit. But before you leave, you look back one last time. And you see yourself, but not reflected, standing by the pool, looking into it. Mouth open, not speaking, just still. You blink and it's gone. You stumble out of the cave into full daylight, gasping like you've been underwater for hours. The sun feels too bright, the sky too loud. Your boots crunch over the ground, and it takes you a moment to realize you're walking faster than before. Not because you're scared, because you've been there too long. You look up, and across the field, poised on a rise, is the cave lion. The same one. You don't know, but it's watching you. Then it turns slowly and walks away, not toward water, but toward the wind. And you follow because you need something to believe in again, even if it's just a lion that refuses to drink. You've walked for hours. The lion keeps its distance, never looking back, never quickening its pace, but always staying just far enough ahead that you have to keep choosing to follow. The land becomes dry again, dust-colored and brittle beneath your boots. Sparse trees, stone ridges, no pools, no shadows, just space, and then it stops. You crest a low hill and find it there standing beside a shallow hollow. In that hollow is a puddle small, barely more than a cup's worth, but clear, fresh, maybe from last night's brief rain. The lion doesn't move. Its ears twitch, and that's when you see the cub, a young one only half grown. Fur, still soft paws, oversized eyes, alert with that wide, naive bravery found only in creatures who haven't learned to be afraid yet. It's alone. The larger lion gives a low chuff, but not in warning, not in command. More like a sigh. The cub approaches the puddle. You hold your breath. The lion stays where it is. The cub sniffs the water. Then without hesitation it drinks, laps at it. Again and again. The older lion watches, doesn't move. You half expect it to charge forward to swat the cub away from the pool. But nothing happens. The cub drinks until it's satisfied, then backs off, tongue flicking over its lips. And that's when it happens. The older lion steps away, and the cub follows, but not beside it, at a distance. Like the older lion no longer recognizes it, or chooses not to. They walk in the same direction, but no longer as one. That's when you realize it's not fear that keeps the lions from drinking. It's memory. And once the cub drank, something changed. They knew. You call out not loud, just enough to hear your own voice again. The lions pause. The cub glances back. Its eyes are different now, not glowing, just still. The older lion keeps walking. No glance, no pause. And that feels worse than any monster beneath the surface. Because what if drinking the wrong water doesn't kill you? What if it makes you forgotten? Historians still debate whether lions had social memory in the same way elephants do, whether they recognized not just individuals but emotional bonds. Some believe their prides operated more like loose coalitions than tight families, but today, watching this, you know that's wrong. You know when a bond has been broken. You descend the slope to the puddle, crouch beside it. There's no foul smell, no shimmer, just silence. You see your reflection. Normal. You reach out, not to drink, just to test. But before your fingers touch the water, you hesitate. Because what if it isn't about what's in the water? What if it's about what it takes from you? You lower your hand, let the moment pass, and walk away. You keep your eyes on the horizon, but a few steps later you glance back. The puddle is still there, but your reflection, gone. Here's a curious detour. Some coral reef fish use ultraviolet patterns to recognize each other, facial ID systems invisible to human eyes. So who's to say cave lions didn't do something similar? Not with light, but with movement. With memory? And what if the act of drinking, of touching certain water, scrambled that pattern, changed how they smelled, how they moved, how they sounded, just enough to make them a stranger, even to their own? You walk until you lose sight of the lions, but you don't stop thinking about the cub. Will it ever be accepted again? Will it even remember the moment it crossed that line? You stop at a high bluff and rest against a stone. There's a lichen here that glows faintly under the right light. You rub it between your fingers. It smells of metal and moss. You open your journal and write, "The cub drank. The pride walked on." Thirst is a choice. Memory isn't. You stare at the page. Then you write one more line. Water doesn't always take your life. Sometimes it takes your name. You don't see any lions the next day, just their ghosts. The wind shifts constantly. Hot, dry, then suddenly cool and sharp, like someone exhaled behind your ear. You hike eastward along the edges of a cliffside plateau, watching the earth crumble gently beneath your feet. There's a sound to this part of the world like glass breathing under sand. You don't question it anymore. By late afternoon, you reach a ridge where the stone forms a natural arch. Beneath it, carved into the cliff face, is something old. A wall of etchings. Not cave art this time. Not deep inside the earth. This is outside, exposed to light and weather, meant to be seen. And it is strange. Not because of how it's drawn, stick forms, pawed outlines, stretched limbs, but because of what it shows. Lines of lions walking toward a lake. Not stalking, not chasing. Not running, just walking, single file. And every single lion has its back turned to the water. Not one of them looks behind. No eyes, no mouths. They walk forward toward the edge of the cliff where the stone stops and the lake once shimmered. Their bodies are drawn in full. Their reflections, drawn only as mouths. You move along the carvings, slowly tracing the edges. At the base of one lion, you see another shape, a small cub. The only figure facing backward, eyes wide, mouth shut, no claws, just stillness. That one never drank, you think. Or maybe it was watching the others drink. Maybe it was left behind on purpose. You notice something else now. Every lion in the image has a tiny circle carved just behind the jawline. A mark, a seal, except the cub. That one is blank. You crouch and examine the ground near the cliff base. There's a scattering of tiny rocks, flint shards, fragments of bone that time has turned to chalk. You pick one up. It crumbles in your hand. But there, hidden beneath the dust, is a smooth patch of stone. Someone's worked it flat. Polished it, maybe. You rub away the dirt. It's not a drawing. It's a phrase. Not a language you speak, but something in your chest knows what it says. You whisper aloud, unsure where the words come from. Do not look back. It remembers you. The wind stops, just for a moment, then returns. A memory flickers. You once stood on the banks of a river as a child, your first camping trip. You remember the current, the shimmer, the frogs calling to one another. You remember bending to scoop water in your hands and How for a single moment the surface went flat and black. Your own face vanished. You never drank from that river again. You'd forgotten that. Until now. Historians still debate whether oral memory passes down biologically through epigenetic trauma or inherited instinct. Some call it nonsense. Others point to examples in birds, elephants, even rodents. The idea that memory might not need language, that it could live in your skin, your pulse, your bones. You believe that now. You step back from the wall and turn toward the distant lowlands. And that's when you see it. Far off, nearly lost in the haze, is a dark lake. It wasn't on your map. It shouldn't be there. It has no feeder stream, no outlet. Just stillness. Coiled in a bowl of rock like it was placed there, not formed. You don't go toward it. You stay where you are. Watch. Wait. Nothing moves. Then something does. On the far side of the lake, a lion emerges from the brush. Slow, hesitant, alone. It walks toward the edge. Then it stops. You squint. Can't be sure. Too far. But you think just maybe you see its reflection move before it does. Only slightly, like a test. The lion backs away, then turns calmly and disappears into the trees. Good. Smart. You return to the carvings one last time. The lions still walk forward, still do not look back. And the cub, you stare at it until your eyes water. Its head is tilted upward now. You're sure it wasn't before. As though it's listening. As though it hears you standing here. Here's your odd fact for the day. Some deep-sea squid have photophores, light-producing cells that mimic the glow of the surface. Predators below them see light and think they're seeing sky. And they strike, right up into death. You wonder how long ago something decided that water could reflect what isn't there, and how long it took for cave lions to stop believing it. You take a piece of charcoal from your bag, kneel, and add a final mark to the wall. A human, facing away from the water, back turned, mouth closed. You don't know why. It just feels right. You descend from the ridge as the light starts to fail. Your boots slipping on loose shale, each step accompanied by that soft hiss of rock remembering gravity. You can still see the lake in the distance, unmoving, unevaporated, immune to time, but you don't look back. Not directly. You let it sit in your peripheral vision like something you'd rather not speak to at a party. As you wind down into the lower terrain, you come across an old path. Barely there, more suggestion than trail. It curls between scrub trees and hardened root systems down toward an ancient migration route. Elk used it once. So did mammoths and cave lions. You follow it. You reach a stretch of flatland, a narrow floodplain, now dry, its cracked skin patterned with old water veins. And it hits you how quiet everything is again. No birds, no wind, just the brittle crunch of your own steps. And that's when you notice. No lion prints, not fresh ones, not old ones, nothing. And this should be the season for them. You drop to one knee and start searching properly. You check the shaded edges, the soft dirt near a cluster of boulders, even the places where dew still holds. Nothing. Not a single paw print. But you find elk tracks, bison, small mammal trails, even human boot prints your own from earlier. But no lions. The route is barren of them. You think back to what you've seen, the old bones near the stream, the whispered cub cries from the reeds, the carvings in the stone, the old woman's voice around the fire. They went down to drink and they didn't come back. Maybe that wasn't a metaphor. Maybe it was a census. Historians still debate whether cave lions had seasonal movement patterns or simply vanished from regions due to climate collapse. It's always climate with them. Always glaciers and prey availability and isotopic ratios. But there are no glaciers here now. There's no shortage of prey, just absence. You stop at a low ridge and scan the ground again. This time, your eyes catch something different. A footprint. Lion. Pressed deep, facing the water, alone. And then just behind it, a drag. A long one. Too deep to be casual. As if the lion had paused, then been pulled forward. The next print is shallow. The one after that gone. You follow the direction and sure enough there it is again. The lake. Closer now, too close. You don't mean to be near it, you just are. It glimmers slightly oily in the fading light. A surface that should ripple but doesn't. You crouch low in the grass, not moving. A bird flies overhead. Its reflection moves too slowly, like it's flying through syrup. You lie flat and wait. And then out of the tree line across the lake movement, a herd of elk, 6 or 7 strong, trotting with nervous momentum. One bull stops near the water's edge, snorts, backs off. The others follow. Then a long pause. Then finally, a lion. Not full grown, maybe a subadult. It hesitates at the edge, then does something you haven't seen yet. It crouches to drink, and drinks. Once, twice. Then stands calm and walks away, back into the woods. You blink. It drank and survived. Your chest tightens. Could it all be wrong? Could everything you've seen be coincidence storytelling wrapped in ancient caution? But then something else emerges, behind where the lion had stood. Not fast, not dramatic, just there. A curve, like the tip of a coiled spine. Rising, then sinking, gone. No ripple, no wake. The elk bolt. You stay frozen, and you realize the lion survived because it wasn't alone. The thing in the lake had already claimed something else. That's the trick, maybe. Not who drinks, but when. You make your way backward, careful not to make sound. Halfway up the ridge, you find more lion prints. Old, dry, and cracked. Circling something. You move towards the center. It's not a watering hole. It's just dirt now. But the ground is concave, bowl-shaped, like something sat here once, waited. And in the center, a bone. Small, not lion. You pick it up. It's carved. Crude lines rough-edged. You recognize the pattern. 3 slashes, a dot. Again and again. The mark of the ones who went near the water. The ones who maybe didn't come back. You write in your journal. They crossed the river, but no paw prints returned. The water doesn't remember everyone. Only the ones who listen. And beneath that, I'm listening. You sit on the ridge until night. You watch the lake. Nothing else rises. But you don't leave until the moon has cleared the trees. And even then you walk slow, like your own footsteps are afraid to echo. You walk beneath the moon as it climbs its cold path through the sky, your shadow long and oddly twitching beside you like it's nervous to be out this late. The trees thin again. The grass grows pale. And then unexpectedly your foot slips. You stumble forward, catch yourself, and realize you've stepped into a spiral, not made by erosion, not made by chance. Lion tracks, dozens, worn half-faded, some sharper than others, all circling inward around a depression in the earth. You step back, because your print just joined them. The circle is maybe 20 feet wide. No straight paths out, just loops. Not chaotic, deliberate. Each lion seems to have walked the spiral once. Some turned tighter near the center. A few stopped. One set ends at the very heart of the spiral. No exit track. You count. 15 tracks spiral inward, only 14 spiral out. You whisper, why? The wind doesn't answer. But the spiral does. Because at the center where all those prints once converged, the ground is sunken. Dry now. But you'd bet your last breath it was once a watering hole. You crouch and put your hand on the earth. Warm. Not sun warm. Breath warm. You pull it back. Now, here's a brain-twisting detail. Researchers once found desert-dwelling gazelles that formed spiral trails to locate safe resting spots, tight loops to compress danger into one defensible point. Lions, however, are not prey. So why walk a spiral? Why voluntarily encircle something they refuse to touch? You walk the perimeter again. It feels ceremonial, funereal. Like each pass around the center is another verse in a song only lions knew the words to. Your eyes catch movement. You freeze. Just grass. Then, no, not just grass. There's a piece of something caught in the center. You step lightly toward it, boots brushing over ancient paw prints. It's a stone, smooth, oval, almost egg-like. You pick it up. It's heavier than it should be. Cold but not unpleasant. You turn it over and feel ridges. Not carved. Grown. It's a fossil. A tooth. No, a fang. Not lion. Bigger. Thicker. split at the root as if it had been pried out. You sit there holding this ancient thing, the center of a spiral of lions who may have gathered not in fear but in memory. A gathering, a mourning, a ritual. And something clicks. Maybe the lions didn't avoid water because they were scared. Maybe they avoided it because they remembered what happened when they didn't. One stayed behind. 14 left. One gave itself up. And the circle holds. You draw the spiral in your notebook. Not the prints, just the shape. Over and over until your hand hurts. You whisper, this was a deal. Historians still debate the social intelligence of cave lions, how much abstract thought they could manage. Some argue they were nothing but muscle and instinct. But you know better now. You know what it means to circle something powerful. You know what it feels like to offer silence instead of explanation. As you leave the spiral, you notice something strange. The silence around you has grown stiller. You didn't think that was possible, but there it is. Even your heartbeat feels slower. You glance at the trees. They're leaning slightly, as if bowing toward the center of the spiral. Or maybe they've just grown that way over time. You don't know. You walk for another hour uphill now, toward stone formations that resemble broken vertebrae. The sky turns a darker kind of silver, a cloudless void. You crest a ridge and look back. The spiral is gone. Not faded. Gone. Just grass now. No prints. No hollow. The center holds nothing but shadow. You turn back toward your path and see paw prints again. Single. Fresh. Lion. They're heading the same direction you are. You follow, but slower now. Careful, because you no longer assume the lion walks ahead of you. It might be behind, or beside, or walking inside your shadow. You reach a flat ledge and find salt rings in the dirt. Like something wet once rested here and dried in perfect circles. The kind of pattern water leaves after long stillness and sudden absence. There's no pond, no rain, just salt and cracked earth. You kneel again. Your hands touch the rings. They're warm too. You're not surprised. You write in your journal, one always stayed. One always gave itself. The spiral isn't to trap, it's to remember. Water forgets. Lions do not. You add a final line. I walked the edge. I left the center untouched. Then you close the book and sit in the salt circle until dawn. The stars fade. No wind. No birds. But a single paw print appears in the dust before you. Not yours. Then another. And another. Heading away. You follow. By the time morning warms the edges of the rocks, the prints are already fading. Not erased by time or weather, just softening. As if they were made not on soil, but on the memory of soil. You walk anyway. You trust your feet more than your eyes now. The lion's tracks lead through a narrow pass lined with shale and slumped stone walls. The kind of place where sound should bounce back to you, but doesn't. Your footsteps get swallowed up like the air is eating them. You begin to hum quietly, nothing tuneful, just a string of notes to make sure you still exist. You follow the path through until it opens into a clearing, and there it is. A pool, perfectly still, circular, with no stream to feed it and no stream to drain it. A puddle if puddles could think. The trees around it are bowed slightly outward as if they once leaned in too far and were gently pushed away. You don't step forward. Not yet. Because you see your reflection. And it isn't moving. You're still. Your chest rising and falling. You blink. But your reflection doesn't. It holds your shape, your colors, your outline. But the mouth is wrong. A little wider, as if waiting to say something. You step back. The water doesn't ripple. It flattens further like it wants to become a mirror, more perfect than the air. You whisper, I know what you are. The pool remains silent, but its stillness tightens. And you notice something. No insects, no birdsong, no sound. But you feel something on your skin, tiny pulses. Not pressure, not temperature, recognition. You're being identified. The cave lions avoided this pool. And now you understand why. It doesn't kill. Not quickly. It remembers you too well. Once you've looked in long enough, it learns your shape. And once it knows you, it doesn't need you anymore. You crouch. Not to drink, not to touch, just to see. And you realize your reflection is standing. Even though you're crouched, it watches you. Then so slowly you could scream, it smiles. Not with joy. With permission. You stand and walk away. You do not run. Because you've learned by now that running is an invitation. As you walk, you pass bones. Not many. Just one or two sun-bleached and scattered. Not lion, not human, unnamed, old. You crest a rise and look back down at the pool. Gone. Not hidden. Gone. A smooth basin of grass now, as though it never existed. You take out your journal. The final page. You write, still water does not kill. It waits. It watches until it doesn't need to. The lions knew, and they remembered for us. You press the tip of your pencil to the bottom of the page and draw a single paw print. It's shaky, a poor replica, but it's yours now. You look up. There's a figure in the distance, low, moving slow. The lion, still walking, never looking back. You follow it. You will follow it until the light fades. Because now you carry something too. Not fear, not even memory. Just the knowledge that there are places water still hunts. And the deepest silence isn't absence. It's attention. And that attention is ancient. You pause on the ridge one last time. The sun sinks. The shadows stretch long. And somewhere beneath stone and time, something breathes in. And now, as the night gathers and your screen grows dim, you feel it too, that slow, hollow hush of something not quite gone. You followed the lions, walked the ridges, traced the spirals, and stood where water once held your reflection and didn't give it back. You've seen how absence speaks louder than presence, how silence hums when the air has memory. The cave lions didn't flee from puddles out of superstition. They weren't simply afraid. They knew. They remembered. They taught their cubs not with words but with tension in the spine, with the decision not to drink with the weight of a stare held too long. Maybe they saw what we can't. Or maybe they saw what we try too hard to explain away, things that still linger under still water, waiting for the moment we forget what came before. But not you. Not now. You've learned that some water doesn't reflect. It remembers. So sleep easy, but maybe don't fall too deep. Leave one ear to the wind, one eye half open. And if you ever walk near a pool that's too still, too quiet, remember what the lions did. They walked away, and one always stayed behind.